Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Raise.dev Hacktoberfest Helpdesk. My name is Joe, and I'm the community manager here at Raise.dev. I'm just on briefly tonight to give you a short introduction to what we've got going on this stream. So today is the Dev2 takeover. The Practical Dev at the Practical Dev on Twitter, otherwise known as Dev.2, the wonderful developer community and blogging site, are taking over our stream tonight to work on Forem, the software that powers Dev2, and we are super excited to have them on the show. I'll introduce you to them shortly. They're going to be talking about accessibility tonight, I do believe. Before we do that, just a few words about how the show works and what you can expect from us if you follow us throughout the month. The Raise.dev Hacktoberfest Helpdesk is here to help you with all of your Hacktoberfest problems, whether that's finding a cool new project such as Forem to work on and tracking down some issues, or something specific like you've got a particular bug or problem that you need someone to help with. How that works is that you can submit your problems to the Raise.dev Hacktoberfest Helpdesk submission form. We will find an expert guest who can help you, and they'll jump on this show and solve your problems. We've got some wonderful guests coming on throughout the month, like the Dev2 folks who will be joining us shortly, as well as some other guests that we'll go through at the end of the show. You can find our schedule for the week at twitch.tv Raise.dev's schedule. We've had two fantastic shows today. You can catch all of our recordings from past shows on the Twitch channel. And if you want to know more about submitting a question to the show and how that works, you can find a highlight in our videos tab where I explain everything about submitting a question in about a minute. So super quick, super easy. So the last thing from me is, why is Raise.dev doing this channel? Why are we hanging out with Dev2? All these good things. We care passionately about helping folks get their first steps into software development. And so whether you're trying to get your first job, you're trying to get your second job, whether you're trying to level up your career in any way possible and any shape possible, Raise.dev is here to help. We'll match you with some expert coaches who will help you get the experience you need to get where you want to be in your career. So that's everything from me. Let me add on the wonderful folks from Dev. Welcome, Nick. Welcome, Christina. Welcome to the show. So I will be abdicating all responsibility and going for a cup of tea while these folks rock Forem and teach y'all everything about accessibility in forums. So have a wonderful stream.
Thanks, Joe. I just realized I'm doing like major product placement, and it's not on purpose. I've got the T-shirt and the coffee mug, but to be honest, we had in our all hands today, we were doing a show and tell of favorite cups, and this is one of my favorite cups. So
yeah.
Anyways,
my favorite cup gets destroyed every few months by my children, so I no longer have favorite cups.
Oh, okay. So this just lost loved ones, I guess. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I guess should we just do some quick intros to ourselves, and then we'll talk about what we're going to talk about. My name is Nick Taylor. I'm a senior software engineer at Forem, which is the software that powers Dev. Been with the team since January, but I've been a contributor to the project pretty much the early days. I was actually the first contributor to the repository. Just a little small fun fact. And I'm here with my awesome coworker, Christina Gorton. It's Gorton. Every time I say it, it sounds like I'm saying Gordon, but I am saying Gorton. So yeah. I'll let you give yourself an intro there.
It's okay. Everyone here in Costa Rica calls our last name Gordon because they can't say Gorton well, so that's okay. People say that all the time. I'm Christina Gorton, open source community manager at Dev. I started last month. Nick, I did not know you were one of the first contributors. That's really cool. And yeah, I'm here to help the community, help open source. We're doing a lot with Hacktoberfest this month, and we're having some fun. And Nick and I are doing these streams with other people from Forem as well throughout the month, and so definitely keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and shout out to Raise.dev for hosting us today, and we'll be on here for a couple other Tuesdays as well during Hacktoberfest. We'll yeah, there's the schedule. Thank you, Joe. This person is a magician. All right. I guess we should get to it. We're going to be talking about accessibility today. Accessibility is very important just because, well, one, it's something that everybody should have access to a website or an application. I'll preface this with I am not an accessibility expert. Christina is not either. We both have a lot of front-end experience, but we just want to preface that there's a lot of amazing people that do great accessibility work. I can't think of everybody's names, but like Marcy Sutton pops in my head just because there's another issue we're going to work on during the pairing this week on Thursday. But shout out to all the people doing the good work. Yeah, so I guess we're just going to maybe go over high level to start what accessibility is.
Yep.
Did you want to go ahead, Christina, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll just pretend like you're my student right now. Does that work? We'll just pretend like you're my student and I'm teaching you accessibility, even though you probably know some of these things. That way we can teach others. Yeah. Okay, so some of the things we want to cover, we want to talk about accessibility in general. What is accessibility? Why is it important? And what are some of the things you can use and kind of get started with accessibility? I think a lot of times it gets kind of put on the back burner with teams, and really it should be at the forefront. And so what are some things that we can do to really get some good wins for people? There is a lot to accessibility. There are a lot of great experts and people who can really help teams get all the things they need for accessibility, but there are things that we as developers can start doing now to make it easier and better for everyone on the web. So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. So one of the things, I'll go ahead and share, I guess. We'll screen share.
All right. We're just freestyling here, so this is
okay.
Hopefully something appropriate shows up on the screen.
Yes, I have, so this is just a local host, so I think it will work on here fine. This was for what Nick will be doing later. He's going to go through some accessibility, one accessibility issue in particular, and work through that, and he just has this open already through live share for us. And I'm going to use what's called Wave extension, accessibility extensions. I'm just going to do my extensions and clicking on Wave, and when I do that, it tells me on a website like what's wrong, what's right, what's good, what's bad. Luckily, most of the things are good. There are some errors and stuff here, though, and I think that's good to even call out. This, again, this is like the local host. It will be a little bit different on the actual dev website, but you can quickly learn some of the accessibility stuff that you should be adding or have when you use these type of tools. This isn't the only one. Wave is one I use. Web accessibility evaluation tool. There's Lighthouse that you can use. There's Axe, AXE, which is a plugin as well that you can use. And so if you go to like the details here, you can click and you can see where there's problems. So sometimes you might have an empty button, and so you can find where that is. You might have contrast issues. Sometimes the contrast issues, depending on what you're using, like frameworks and things, it might not actually be an issue, but if it is, you can click and then you can go to something like this, contrast, and then you can adjust. So making things darker or lighter and see where you pass or fail. And then you can let a designer know, hey, this color is great, but it's not passing. Can we adjust it on this like spectrum of the color so that we're actually passing and that we have enough contrast for people to be able to read this? Like we all want to read, whether you have like vision problems or not. A lot of times these contrast issues are good for everyone to fix. So that's like an important detail and something you can think about. Some of the other things on here, Nick, I don't know if you want to point out anything else on here, or I can keep going.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention about the contrast issue. I read recently that the algorithm to calculate the proper contrast has changed, but I don't know if that's propagated into tools yet or not. I forget who tweeted that. I think it might have been Adam Argyle, who works on the Google Chrome team. I think it was him who might have tweeted it, but yeah. But I guess the other thing about this particular tool, Wave, and to clarify in case people didn't catch that at the beginning, this is a browser extension, and it's available for Chrome or Chromium based. I imagine it works in both. I'm using Edge right now, so it seems to work in there. But it
works for Firefox too.
Yeah. So the thing you're showing on the side here, the summary pane and stuff, it's not just errors. It's also, hey, this is good too. Right.
Yep.
So like structure. Yeah. So it's a report of the good and the bad, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So the structure stuff, it's a lot of like semantic HTML, which is stuff that we should be using. That's like using a button tag versus like a div, because we have button that's more semantic. We have a menu tag that's way more semantic than a div. These are important things for when people are using the keyboard and they're navigating. It will tell them like where they're at. If you just have a div, you can do stuff with ARIA, which again, this mentions down here, where you can give something a role and say what it is. So if you have a div, you can say it's a button, but you are better off using like a button. It already has those features built in. It's just better to do that. Some of the other things you can do, ARIA is not just for that, but you can use ARIA for other things, like say designers a lot of times don't want to have a search as a label, because they don't think it looks as nice. So you can say ARIA label equals search, and then people who navigate with their keyboard are going to know that this is a search box. So there's still a label there. It's just not showing up like a label other than what's in this little box, which isn't technically a label. It's just a placeholder text.
Yeah, cool. I was going to say, you were mentioning area labels, and you were talking about like using a button versus a div, for example. There's I guess one of the reasons to use semantic HTML, like you said, is it's got a lot of the functionality. So if you actually try to make a div a button, you're actually making more work for yourself too. So as a developer, it might seem easier to put a div, but you're actually making your work a lot harder, because by default a div isn't focusable. So then you'd have to give a tab index, and you have to say role equals button, and then it just seems like a lot of work to just, instead of say, yeah, I'm going to put a button. And the thing is with CSS, you can style things pretty much however you want. There's some issues still with like a native select box, but I think that's gotten a lot better over the years. But like, if you make a custom select box, that you're probably making more work for yourself as well. The pattern we use on Forem, and I've seen on other sites, is you can style the initial like select box that you see, so it fits in with the design of the application. And then when you click on it to pick an item out of the select box, you end up with more of the native feel. And that can actually be one place where I've noticed that a lot, is if you're on a site and then you're on mobile, like for example, on an iPhone, they have that kind of like spinning select options, So if you don't use a native select, you've all of a sudden just made your life a nightmare, kind of. And I guess the other thing I was going to say, and this is from, I still feel like I'm a newbie at all this, but you definitely want to prefer the semantic HTML over area attributes. Like area, from my understanding, area attributes are more kind of like a last resort, or to do things, or to compromise. That's the way I've understood it. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, even when you look at, I think it's on Mozilla Docs. It might be on the actual, like where they talk about ARIA. They say like the first kind of like the rule of ARIA is to not use it, like use semantic HTML. If you're using semantic HTML, you don't have to like use all those ARIA rules, or area. We're probably both saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Todd. First rule of ARIA, Fight Club, don't use ARIA.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm from Canada, so I'll say ARIA. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I saw Todd Libby in the chat was saying color 5 will blend both AA and AAA into one guideline for contrast. Is the color 5, is that the new algorithm, or I'm not sure what he was referring to there.
Yeah, but if you all want to talk to someone in the chat who knows accessibility, I know Todd does, so definitely good to have Todd here.
Yeah, and it brings up another thing to discuss. He was mentioning AA and AAA. So what are those exactly?
Yeah, so AA and AAA are kind of like AAA is like the gold standard. If you can get to AAA, that's great. AA, you'll pass like most accessibility kind of like screen checks that you do. Like if you're putting your stuff in, if you can at least get to AA, that's good. If you can get to AAA, that's like way better. That's even better. But it's along the lines of like when we're talking about color contrast, you can. And when you're adjusting the color contrast, you can start seeing on some of those plugins that like you've hit AA. Okay, great. Most people are going to be able to differentiate this. If you can hit AAA, then you're real good. Like people are going to be good with what you have on your site. It's a little harder, and a lot of people don't even try to get to AAA. At least people I've worked with in the past. A lot of times they're trying to just get to AA, but yeah, it's a lot of times issues between, I don't want to say like a fight or issues between a designer and a developer, but a lot of times I think if you know these tools, you can go to a designer much easier and be like, hey, like this is a great gray, but this gray is not going to work because of this issue. Look, like this, people can't see that it's not passing at least AA. And then once you know those kind of things, you can kind of do a little bit better on getting some of those accessibility issues fixed.
Yeah, it's cool. I've used the WebAIM color contrast tool. That's the one I've used more recently, and it's just kind of nice because like your colors don't change that much. Like if you like whatever the color it started off as, like you were showing before, you just drag it slightly, and then you see the AA pop up, and then AAA, and so like you can still keep pretty good design colors even by just tweaking the contrast there, and it's a big win for everybody. Yeah, so there's that. So that's the WebAIM browser extension. There's also Axe, like you had mentioned. I don't know if you have that installed or not.
I don't think I do right now. I had it before, but I recently did some updates, and I don't think I have it. But Axe is another one. Lighthouse, you can use it a couple different ways. That's another one. I think Lighthouse is done by Google originally.
Yeah.
And you can find out performance and accessibility and a couple things like that. They don't really give you necessarily as much as like the visuals as some of the other plugins that people tend to like. But you can get kind of a breakdown of like where you've gone wrong and how you can fix it. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a few funny tweets in the past where somebody says they scored 100 on accessibility and performance and everything in Lighthouse, but it's just like an index HTML with like nothing in it. So,
exactly.
So that kind of cracks you up a bit. Yeah, cool. So there's those tools. I guess what can we do as developers to kind of instill this into our organization? Like, like in regards to Forem, for example, right now, I know we don't have an accessibility advocate yet. There's a lot of people on the team that are trying to improve it, but one thing which I think I'd love to get us to do on the team, and I think this is something that other teams should do, or is just advocate for it, like throughout the whole process. Like everybody has to have the buy-in, because otherwise it just becomes kind of like when people say, skip the test for now, just merge it or whatever, so
yeah.
So it's got to go all the way from like, here's what the feature is we want to do, okay, let's take that into consideration, even at the design stage, implementation stage, and so on. And from what I've read, typically you have some kind of accessibility champion on the team, or several people, but I think that's a good way to kind of, once you kind of get it in, it's like it becomes a normal thing to do. It's no longer like maybe, because I don't think anybody wants to become Domino's. So
yeah, well, I think one thing that, and this is just kind of personal experience, when I was first getting into development, I don't think I realized a lot of things with accessibility, because one, I was just teaching myself, and I got lucky in getting a job like pretty early on. Like I wasn't even really aware of the proper use of headings at the time, but I remember my team being like, when I would have code reviews, they were very like kind about it, but pointing it out, right? Like, hey, this is, they're giving me code reviews. They're teaching me as like I'm putting in the code and they're telling me. And I think a lot of times on Teams, it can just be as simple as that. Like, can we just talk about like, hey, approach it in a way where you're teaching someone like, hey, this is, great or whatever. Can we do this? And this is the reason why. And I think a lot of people are going to approach that of, oh yeah, okay, I didn't realize. And once you realize, then it's much easier to start accepting those types of things. So a lot of times I just had people pointing it out to me, like I wasn't aware. And then once I became aware even of a few things, then I just started learning myself, right? Because then I was like, oh, what else am I missing? I didn't even know that this was the thing. What else am I missing and not helping? And I think also surrounding ourselves with people who like, these are challenges for different people in a bunch of different ways. Like people have challenges in all kinds of ways on the web. Like I do a lot of animation, so I became much more aware of stuff with like vestibular disorders that I wasn't aware of before. Working with animations, just like figuring that kind of stuff out and figuring out where people are having issues. My husband's colorblind, so that was another thing that like I was like, oh, you can't see this stuff. Like, just being aware of those kind of stuff. I think you already get buy-in that way from like empathy just for other people.
Yeah. Where you're like, listen, we need to get married because I need to work on some accessibility. Yeah. No, it's my brother-in-law is colorblind too, so like I'm just thinking whenever it's traffic lights, it's actually traffic lights are a very good example.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody's ever noticed it, at least I'm speaking for what I've seen in Canada. I'm sure I feel like it's got to be universal though, but red's like a circle. I think the triangle is yellow or orange, and then the green's a square, or maybe it's the opposite. I can't remember. But basically there's shapes, which brings up the interesting concept because it kind of ties into web design as well. Like by like Steve Shoger and Adam Wathan, who work on refactoring UI and all that, like, they always talk about different ways you can make things pop, and like icons and things to differentiate things can also help a lot too, in terms of distinguishing, what is this, because if somebody can't distinguish the color of anything, if they see, oh, it's X, that clearly means close it, or there's like a check mark, I mean, and but I was going to say what you were mentioning before about you didn't really have people, like, as you started off developing, mention these things. And I have the same experience. It's only really been in recent years that I'm aware and like kind of starting to do these things, and I'm glad I am now, but it's just like, there's been like a huge chunk of my career. Like I even worked in e-commerce at one point, and like, I don't think it was ever taken into account, like the classic stuff, like, no, they tabbed into it, and all of a sudden there's this horrible blue halo around, and people like just, outline none or whatever. But
it's got to be pretty.
No, but the cool thing about that though is, like, if you're speaking about focus, it doesn't have, like, the default is good if you don't change anything, but there's nothing stopping you from just changing how it looks visually when it's focused, right? Like it doesn't have to be an outline. It could be like, I don't know if it's the best practice or not, but you could have like kind of the same look as when you hover over it with a mouse, maybe, or but different ways to style it, but while still giving some visual indicator. So
and I think as people just start realizing that, I think some people don't know what that is, right? Like, what is a focus ring? Like, why is that there? Oh, it just looks ugly. When you know what it is, I think that kind of like initial reaction of like, oh, that's ugly, kind of goes away, because it's useful, right? Like once you know it's useful and people need this to have these visual cues or whatever, then I think there's a little bit less problem. I mean, I have been on teams where like I've had to kind of fight back on that and be like, we need this. Let's figure out a way to style it in a way that's going to be good for everyone, and still useful. But yeah, there's definitely that. Sometimes there's pushback on things, and I think it can be kind of easy to push back again once you know a little bit about accessibility, and once you know like why these things are important. It's not as hard to kind of be like, okay, this is why this is here, and this is why this is important. And I think really we should really think around this, like how can we still incorporate this and incorporate whatever design or whatever functionality we want, and still make sure we're making this useful for everyone. Once you kind of, and maybe that's what you were saying before, there's usually some kind of advocate on a team that's like, hey, this is important. We need to make sure this is important. I would love for teams to not have to have like one advocate, because I think that person gets burned out. I think.
Yeah, no, it's got to be kind of ingrained, and it's I like on our team at least, like I don't think we're experts at all at this yet, but we have a few people on the team that are like helping with this initiative. So, but the other thing I'm thinking about, is like from a business standpoint, like, if somebody's like, we need to ship this feature, so forget accessibility. If say you have no heart or soul, like think about money for a second as a business. Yeah. If your application is more accessible to more people, you're gonna make more money. So for all those heartless, soulless people, just think dollar bills, if not. So just throwing that out there. So say hi to Satan for me, I guess. But
honestly, when I used to teach this to students, because when I first started teaching like the initial front end, like HTML, CSS instructor and we really started pushing for accessibility because it wasn't taught as much as we thought it should. And we were really pushing for it. And that was one of the things at the end, like I would just tell students, I'm like, listen, if nothing else, just know that this is a legal issue too for most places. So you need to be aware of these things, because sometimes people aren't moved on, an issue if it's not affecting them. But sometimes you got to get a little tough about it. Hey, these are legal problems. You should start being aware of this and really thinking these things through, because that could affect you in that way as well. Should we be empathetic? Yes. As everyone knows. So at least be aware that, hey, this can be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna post in the chat for Joe I've got a link to all the accessibility issues we have open for Hacktoberfest. So I'm just gonna send that to him in a second. Here's the available.
Todd, if you wanna contribute to Forem, some accessibility issues.
So you can post that in the chat. We'll probably have like a follow-up tweet or post about all this anyways, but there's that. I guess we can talk about some other stuff we do on Forem in regards to this, and I won't lie, we are guilty of some of these things we mentioned in the code base, and this is
definitely.
It's nobody's perfect, but we're trying to get it all fixed up. I know that the outline none that I mentioned before in the admin section of Forem right now, I open an issue for it, so there's no outline right now on the focusable stuff. But I know Pavel, our product design, one of our product designers, I think he's reworking the admin look and feel. So I think he said in that issue that he was working on bringing that back. So so
did you want me, before we jump on that, just because I'm thinking of what we were talking about the other day, do you want me to talk a little bit about the animation side of like accessibility and then jump in?
Yeah, for sure, because I barely know animation stuff myself. It's definitely a specialization, and you're super solid at this. And aside from the CSS property where you can say prefers reduced motion, I don't really know how else you can make an animation accessible. So I think it would be cool to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, so a little background. I do a lot of animations. I teach on a lot of animations. I'm currently working on a CSS course for LinkedIn on animations, and part of it, one of the first videos is best practices, and we talk about accessibility with animations, because animations are cool. People like them. It's fun to see, and a lot of like I have a code pin that shows off a lot of my animations, and they're wild. They're probably not something I would put on most websites though. And the reason why is because there are people with something called vestibular, and I had to like look at how to say that like 1,000 times because I said it wrong. All my retakes on my CSS course have been like, hold on, let me say that right. So vestibular disorders, and what that does is it will cause motion sickness or nausea or headaches for people who go on websites where there's a lot of motion. Right.
Okay.
And so people might not be aware that, oh my gosh, there's like a lot of sites nowadays. There's really, really cool websites and they want to show off. And when you're scrolling, things are like animating in, or there's that parallax effect that happens where there's a foreground and a background and they're moving at different speeds. And all these things are cool. And as devs, we like to do them. But for people on the web who just want to go on a website, there's a huge percentage. I think I can find it again of like the percentage of people. I can't remember, but there's a big percentage of people who have this disorder. So they're like sensory information processing problems. And so it can cause all kinds of issues and people can't even go on the website. So it doesn't mean you can't use web animations. One of the things like Nick mentioned is you can do prefers reduce motion, and that you can give people the option to toggle stuff on or off. Like I'm working with a company right now and we're creating animations, and we at the very beginning we have these toggles where they can turn off the sound and the animation, and that's off by default. So it's off by default. If they want to see those things, they can turn it on. That's one way to help, right? Give people the options to turn those types of things off. The other thing though is that you can still have the stuff where things are like scrolling and coming in. It's just important to think of like how much of that motion is happening. So if you have more subtle stuff, like things are kind of coming in, they're probably not going to affect people. But something like parallax scrolling, if you have something in the foreground moving much faster than the background, then that's really going to affect people, and you can slow that down. There's a lot of good people out there who like have done this, and you can slow things down, and maybe that's one of the things I can put in like the follow-up that we have of just like examples of that. But so you can still have like parallax scrolling. You just have to think of like, don't make things like whoosh, really quick. My sound effects here. Don't make things go like really, really fast, right? That's going to affect people.
That's the rest of the stream. Yeah, we're just making funny noises the rest of the stream.
I am very bad about sound effects. My husband laughs at me all the time because I have sound effects for like everything in life. They're not great sound effects, but I do them for everything. Even me, like when I'm working on animations after a while, I'll get headaches too. So it's something that happens to a lot of people. So that's one thing. The other thing is to consider, for a long time, people don't do it as much anymore, but for a long time there was scroll jacking on websites. So you'd start scrolling and then it would just take you wherever it wanted. You're not doing that like normal, like either going up and down or sometimes sideways. It would take you all over the place. And that's just like, you don't do that. Don't steal people's ability to scroll. That's really gonna make people like have these issues. So that's something to consider. Things where stuff is like, you have like a button that maybe you're hovering over and it scales just a little and the background color changes or something like that. Those are probably not going to affect people. So you can have these animations. You can also have more fantastic animations. Just give a user the ability to like turn it off or on. Otherwise, they're probably just not going to be able to go to your website, which is a bummer for everyone. You're going to lose out on business. They're going to have a headache or worse. And so these are things to just keep in mind for that. Yeah. And
no, that makes me think of Rachel Neighbors, who she works on a documentation team at React now.
Yeah,
I bought one of her books because like I find animation interesting. I haven't had enough time to really spend a lot of time on it yet. But
Animation at Work, if anyone wants to see
that's
it.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that, because it just popped in my head when you mentioned about animations in terms of accessibility, is also just animations in general. Don't do animations just to do animations. Like there should be a purpose to them aside from like, hey, this is a snowboard site. Here's a cool guy, surfing across my screen and hijacking my scroll bar or whatever.
That's one of the examples of the worst. Like site. If you look up like worst example of like animation on the web, there's this website where it's all like, I think it was like sponsored by Red Bull, and you're just all over the place. I used to show this when I would teach about it. It's like you go all over. It's awful. So yes,
Yeah.
there is like specific branding people have, and maybe that appeals to their user base, but you are going to be knocking a lot of people out.
Yeah. So if your adrenaline level is at 200%, then go for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I think I drank too much coffee today. So if my heart literally explodes out of my chest, that is why. It's not a condition. Yeah. So I'm rambling on here. So let's. Why don't we just get to it? I guess. So I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully I'm not talking too fast because it's the coffee. If it is, all right. I think we're going to enter Inception mode here because I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, we just entered Inception mode. Okay, you should be able to see my live share, and let's go to the browser again for a sec. Why is my browser? Okay, sorry, it shows a specific window. All right, let's go share screen again. Sure, let's go to an Edge tab. Yeah, okay. So you should be able to see the issue we're going to work on today. So like I mentioned, the link that Joe posted, we have some issues open for Hacktoberfest. They're labeled accessibility and Hacktoberfest, so you can filter on those two. So this one here, it's talking about providing skip links for keyboard and screen reader users. I need to learn how to speak. Did you want to just talk briefly about what skip links are and why you might want to have them?
Unless you want to, since you're doing
okay.
this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to do the back and forth thing. Good cop, bad cop. Yeah. So essentially, by having a skip link, it's let me go to dev here. Let's go to dev.2. I'm a big fan of the pink theme. Thank you, Alice Patel.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm focused in the window right now, and I'm going to press tab, and you're going to see this black, it looks kind of like a button, but it's actually a link. And if I hover over it, it says skip to content, but what it's going to do is when I click on it, it jumps to the middle of the page to the first article, which is where the main landmark is, which is a semantic element. So that's the, just the main. We can maybe send Joe a link to that, Christina, and he can paste that in the chat for people that might not be aware of this. So the main, if we come here, let me inspect for a second here. I'll zoom in a sec so everybody can see.
Sorry, just to check, a link to dev. Just
no, sorry. Sorry, I meant if you just send them a link to that too, but also just to MDN for the main tag, for people that might not be familiar.
Gotcha.
That's my bad. That was a very horrible explanation on my part. So. Okay, so you can see here there's a main element here, and this is it's called a landmark, and this is kind of like, as the name of the HTML tag implies, the main area. So this is where your like principal content is going to be. So this skip link that we have here, so when I click tab here, when you click on that, it is by using the anchors, in this case, the ID. So if we look here, it's, is it this one? Yeah, articles list. Yeah, let me find it. But basically, you're going to jump to where that anchor is. So the articles list. And
sorry to jump.
Somebody.
One moment. We
have
a tiny post box for your screen. Are you screen sharing your desktop or a specific window? I think there may be a chance that your screen share isn't picking up the inspector or the other window you're working on.
Okay.
At the moment.
Okay, let me stop screen sharing for a sec here. Let's share again. I'm somewhat new to ScreenYard. I'm going to say entire screen.
Yeah, entire screen would be the best one for this.
Yeah, so we'll get inception mode here again.
Sorry, I'll
Maybe.
wait till that's over.
All right, so yeah, so if we look for skip the content, okay, you're gonna see here, there's, this is in the header, which is another semantic tag, HTML tag. And the first thing we have in there is an anchor with an href to go to this articles list. And when you click on that, it's going to bring you to that content. I thought it was going to the main semantic tag there, but let's see where articles list is. Yeah, no, it is in the main. I must have been looking at something else. Sorry, that's my bad. So basically, when you click on this skip link, it's gonna it's gonna scroll down right to the main content area. And this is something for people that are on using a screen reader or keyboard navigation. It'll just be able to jump right to there, so they can say like, I don't want to see everything else around me. I want to go to the guts of what's on this page. Basically, that's pretty much how I've understood it. Did you have anything to add to that, Christina, or does that sound kind of good to you? I don't know.
Yeah. And I think the important part here is exactly like you said. So some websites where you're at, they have a whole bunch of like stuff that like someone who's having to tab through to get to things, they would have to go through a ton of stuff. And that's tiring on every website you go on. So it's nice if you just have the initial tab, they can say, hey, go to the main, like, where's the important stuff on this website? What am I going to be reading? If they need to go to other stuff, they can tab through. But if they want to just be able to go to like the main focus of a web page, then they can do that, and they're not having to have, tab.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Yeah. So that's the issue we're going to work on, and you're probably asking, well, it's already implemented. Why are we doing this? It's implemented, but only on the main page of dev. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and look for all the pages. As far as I know, because we've done some accessibility refactorings over the past couple months, I believe every page has a main semantic HTML tag now. So I think the plan of attack would be, we'll see how far we get, but we're going to find all those main semantic HTML tags. We're going to add IDs to them if they don't have IDs. And then from there, I think we'll just add a skip link in the header area like we do here. So if I go back up to header, here. So where we have it as the first thing. And it's the first thing in the header because as soon as you tab, you want it to be the first thing so you can jump to everything. That's pertinent. Like you don't want to go on the side there with the sidebar, the reading list and all that. So that's what we'll do, because if I come here, for example, if I go to my notifications and let's look in here. Let's see, there should be a main in here. Okay, forum sidecar. Oh, whoops, that's my bad. Let me turn off the forum. Remove from Edge. That's the forum browser extension. I was working on that prior. But it was bleeding into the actual web page. And anyways, let's see here. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe there isn't a main on this page. Okay.
So we need a main.
gotta get me some main. All right. Well, it seems to have. You see, interesting. Okay, so already here we've got some div soup. So that's like a lot of divs. So I think what might make sense here, and let me know what you think, Christina, but I think in the case of the notifications page, if we made the articles list the main area using a main, I think that would be good.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this is, I don't know how other people work when they start to figure out like where is stuff in the code, but I'm going to start looking for div class articles list in the code. Like literally I'm gonna edit. Oops, why is the dictionary popping up? Okay, let's go edit HTML, and I'm literally gonna just grab this here, and I'm just gonna close Slack. All right. Okay, can you see my VS Code now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm just going to zoom in one more there. And now we'll go down one.
Todd had some advice, by the way. He said main for the area we were talking about and a side for the sidebar, which I agree with as well.
Yeah, I think no, for sure. I think on the main dev page it's using the aside HTML tag, but you're right from what we saw there. If we come back here, okay, why is my browser window not coming back? Okay. Anyways, but yeah, it's a div in the page we're on right now, and it should be an aside. So we could actually create another issue to do that.
Yeah.
So if you want to just maybe take note of that, we can pop that into the known issues for accessibility for Hacktoberfest. So I'm literally just going to look. So I know a bit about the application. So most of the application is running Ruby on Rails. We have Preact and some other interactions with vanilla JavaScript, but most of the stuff is in templates. So we can already see there's a bunch of these article lists. So I'm kind of inclined to just say, let's literally replace these all with just main. Actually, I should do them one by one because I'm going to have to do the closing tag too. So cancel that. So let's go here. So like even before we do the skip links, just changing these to main is already a benefit. And if I collapse that, okay, cool. All right, let's come here. Winner, chicken dinner. Okay. Let's get. Okay, yeah. So here, this is what Todd was speaking about. So this is a sidebar. This should probably be an aside. I believe that's what he was talking about, Christina.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So there's a few of those in the code. It looks like this template might have been copied a few times, so that's probably why. Okay. So we're just gonna change these all to main. Cool. And let's go here. Oh, oops. I don't think that one got the bottom. VS Code can change the. I'm using VS Code for my editor, and usually when you change the tag name, it can change both. But I think because I'm in a Ruby herb template, it's not registering it, but not a deal breaker. Let's collapse this one. So this is the boring part of the stream where you just see me type in the same thing over and over. And
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, good point, Todd. Todd said it adds another landmark for tabbing, navigation, and screen readers when you put the aside. So.
Yeah. So just to reiterate that, putting in the skip link is definitely a good thing to do, but just having it as a semantic tag already is a big win. Okay, so we're good there. Now, for some reason, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare because I don't know why StreamYard's not letting me switch to... oh, I know what it is. It's because I have multiple desktops on my Mac. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to close them and they're going to merge into one. All right, cool. There we go. You should see my browser again.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. All right, I'm going to refresh this. Typically in the Forem software, we cache heavily because it's primarily a content-based site. So on the server, normally a lot of these HTML partials would be cached. We use Redis caching, and then there's edge caching, and Ben has a few articles about that. But when we're doing local development, the changes I just made, I should be able to see it. So if I come here now, and of course it's not showing. Okay, let's see here. Let's check again. Oh, that's because I'm a dummy. I'm on the actual site.
Say you're not on localhost.
That's a classic. Yeah, I wasted a day, debugging because I was on prod. All right, that's good to know. All right. Okay, so we're on the actual development site now, which is good. Okay, so you can see here my change was reflected. So already that's a big win. So now let's see here. We have the sidebar, but I don't see a header in here. I'm curious what the recommendation here would be. Like, should I just pop in a header regardless and put the skip link in even though we don't really have anything else header-wise at the moment.
On the home page, what was the header for? Like, what was the? Oh, it's the feed and the month and the year stuff. Is that the header?
Yeah. So like, if we come here, it's primarily the skip link, and then what's? Oh yeah. So it's the skip link and just the main header area. So, okay. So I might have to see why. Whoops, just did inception there. Sorry. Okay, so maybe the problem is that the header that we have on the notification page is not the same. So if I inspect here, let's see what that. Okay, so it's just, no, that's right. Why am I seeing it there? Okay, so we do have a header, and why am I seeing? This is weird. How come I still, it's like, oh, I wonder if the skip link that they had added was added, but there was never the actual main area. Is that possible?
Possibly, but yeah, like Todd said, you can have like if we want to keep it consistent and have the header, then I understand what you're saying, but we also don't have to have the header, although it looks like they have it anyway. So
yeah, okay.
Skip link, so.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense because the header is probably in another herb template. So, okay. So we get the skip link for free with the header because of the whole header bar. Okay. Yeah. So that seems to work. So if I'm just scrolling my my notifications up because I want to test it. So if I click tab, you see how it just moved the page slightly. So it's going to the initial content. So I think we're good here. Obviously, I'll put up a pull request later. And Todd, if you feel like taking a peek at that PR later, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, if you want to add the aside, we can make that an issue. You can.
Okay, let's go to the dashboard and let's see what we have here. We should have a main now. Yes, we do. Okay, so this one on the dashboard has the main. Well, there's other stuff going on here. Okay, so the header is there, but okay, yeah.
The header's going to be different here because it's showing all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's okay. Yeah, in this case, the header is within the main. Okay, so I wonder why that is, because typically the header should be above the main, right? Because you'd have header, main, and then footer.
Do they have two headers in here?
Yeah, let's check.
I'm wondering if they have
header. Hold on, header. Yeah, there is two headers.
Yeah, so they have that up. Yeah, they just create them both as headers.
Okay, so in this case, we have the skip link here still. Okay, so in that case, okay, so there's a couple of things too I'm thinking about. If you look at the skip link that's generated here, because it's the same one across all the, because it's the same header on every page, at least for that top bar, the ID is always the same, and in our case, we probably don't want that. Maybe we'll look at changing this to a more generic ID for like the main area, because like when I'm on my dashboard, the articles list that gives the context is completely wrong. I know it's just an ID, but okay, cool.
I mean, just so you know, I don't know if you touched on this because I was looking something up. You can have more than one header on a page. So different areas can be more than one header, which is probably what they're doing here. They have their like main header, which they're applying to like everything, but because this is like a different section, that can have a header as well. So
yeah, cool. All right, so I'm going to come back into VS Code here, and I'm going to look for the main. So dashboards here, this looks like it's probably it. So I'm just going to add an ID so that when we click on the skip, when we press enter on the skip link, it'll jump to there. I think it's this one. There's two, so I'm going to see what this subscriptions one is after. So I believe it was articles-list. I have my my editor to autosave. So if we refresh this, I'm going to scroll up just to show it in action. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So it's working there. Now I'm curious where the subscriptions thing is. Let's see here. Okay, well, I'm gonna add an ID to this anyways, and as I mentioned, I'll rework it once I have a draft pull request up. But I don't think it makes sense to have this ID called articles list. But just for getting things working right now, you know, you gotta keep on iterating. So. Also, shout out to Todd Libby. Thanks for giving the feedback in the chat here as we're going along. It's appreciated. And
super helpful.
Yeah, and as far as I know, Todd is pretty well versed in all things accessibility. So he's probably a good follow on Twitter. Throw out your Twitter handle there if you want to, Todd. Shameless plug, you know. Okay, cool. So that's the main here. Okay. I'm just curious where this subscription page is, though. So I don't know what other people do when they're trying to figure out where things are set, but I'm going to look for another template. So all these templates have, just let me expand the search here. I'll zoom it in a bit. So the files I want to include are .herb, or no, wait, what was it? HTML.herb, sorry. Okay, and it's not. Okay, that's good. Oh yeah, that's right, because I just added an ID. That's why it's not finding any. Now what I want to see is where the subscription is in one of these templates. Because usually the way these templates work is you can have like a sub-template and then it includes it. So I'm just trying to see where this subscriptions.html.herb gets used, because then I can go to that page. But I first need to learn how to spell subscription.
That's what you always mess up in live coding. That was always my thing. Why isn't this working? No.
Yeah, that's a side note, but I'm a big fan of TypeScript. We're not using TypeScript at Forem right now, but I've used it for quite a long time, and stuff like silly mistakes. Well, linters can pick that up too, but TypeScript will be like, nope, that does not exist. I am not building for you. Okay, user subscription tag, no. I'm trying to remember the syntax. I'll preface this with I'm not a Ruby on Rails expert. I work primarily on the front end on Forem. So I'm trying to remember what the include syntax is for including like a herb partial. Okay.
But as a plug, in 2 weeks, we'll have Vaidehi Joshi on here talking all about the back end on a Wednesday. So.
Yeah, there we go. So Vaidehi, help. Okay. You know what? I'm going to skip this one for now. We have the ID there. I'll figure it out at some point where it is. I don't want to waste too much time because we've got about 30 minutes left here on the stream. And I don't want to put people to sleep either. So let's check out a few other things here. Comments. Okay, that should all be the same because it's the same page. So we still have the main. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Okay, writing a post. Okay, so this is we're writing a new post on Forem, a Forem instance. In this case, it's dev. So let's see. Okay, there is no main here from what I can tell. Okay, no. There's a footer. Okay, let's go and just using the dev tools here. Gonna find the header. That's the banner. Okay, let's find the header again.
Header content would probably be the main.
Yeah. So there's class crayons container here. Let's just go find something in here and drill up. Okay, so it's got a form, which makes sense because this is gonna get submitted server side. And then what else we got here? Okay, so the div ID JS article form, this kind of feels like it could be the main. I don't know if you think that's a good idea because we have the form. Mm-hmm. I mean, the other thing I could do, I guess, is because what's this SVG here? Hold on a sec. I think that's just
probably just the div logo.
Yeah. So that's kind of maybe not necessary, but in the form, I just want to see if the two tabs here, the edit and preview, are inside the form. Okay, they are.
Yeah.
So maybe put the main around the article form.
Yeah, I
think
mean, if
that-
someone's
okay.
on that page and they're going to want to jump to something, they're probably going to just want to jump to the form.
Yeah. Okay. So this part I think is built in Preact, but let's take a peek. Yeah, looks like it. And this is a, there we go, ID article form. And again, this is a form. Okay, and this kind of ties into, we're not doing this on purpose, but tomorrow we're on a stream talking about how things front end. So there's Preact in the application as well. Okay, so I'm going to see where this gets exported. Sorry. So I just want to look at the name of the component. It's just article form. So if I look for article form, okay, extends, Okay, this looks like it's potentially the place.
Got the logo.
Yeah.
You can see the logo SVG.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so article organizations. Okay, yeah, get element by ID, JS article form. So that's the root. Okay, so it's bootstrapping into there. Okay, this actually needs a refactor. We upgraded to Preact 10, but so basically what's going to happen here is when the preview page loads, it's going to, and actually we can show this probably. Come here.
You like to show off your Spotify all the time, Nick.
Oh, yeah, I'll close it. I've been listening to the Watchmen soundtrack. It's pretty good. I like all things like Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. They have good instrumental stuff. Okay, so
I'm
this is
listening to a lot of emo music this month. I don't know why, but I'm going back to like my 16-year-old self.
That's all good. Okay, so I just put a breakpoint here. This is going to do a render. And I'm going to refresh the page, and it's going to hit the breakpoint here. And based on what I see in the code here, there's going to be no form initially, I think, or there's something there. Okay, so maybe it's overwriting what's there. Interesting. But anyways, it's bootstrapping here. So it is that article form. So now we just need to find this here. It's just to give my full train of thought here. I want to find where the JS article form is because I want to wrap the main around there. But for some reason, it only appears to be here. Oh, wait, that's because I'm only looking in a JSX file. That's why. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, so it's here. So instead of the article form, we should make this a main. So main. Main. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, so here, so this is an example of where the skip link is probably not going to work, or not probably. Yeah. It's definitely not going to work because the ID is different. So I'm gonna just change it temporarily just to show that the skip link works.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll definitely require rework. Let me just remove the breakpoint here. It's gonna hot reload if it didn't already. Okay. All right, so now if I come in here and let's look, oops, not there. Let's look for the main again. That's there, ID articles list, that's great. And if we come to the header, not that one, I could have sworn. There's definitely another one in there. I know it's in there, but, so I'm gonna click up here and I'm gonna click tab. Oh, interesting. It's not there.
Oh no, we're missing a header.
All right, let's, yeah, dun, dun. Okay, no, that, I'm not sure why that's not there. Let me check. I just want to check prod to see if that's how it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did drop
post.
my emo
playlist.
No. Emo forever. Joe.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so cool. So there actually is no header in here aside from the one I just found. And that makes sense because when you click close here, I forgot about this. This was a rework that Pavel did.
Oh,
it's kind of, yeah, you kind of enter in Zen mode like for when you're creating a post. So yeah, I come out. Okay, so that's not a big deal.
Just a random question, just wondering, is that only for the newer like version editor, or is that how it looks for the other editor too? for the older one? Do you know?
Let's
I
take a
can look. I
peek.
think I'm in the old one.
Okay. If not, I can change my settings here. But
Oh no, it is a modal too. Okay. That's
okay.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, we can put a header. It might not be the best place to put it right now, but this is more just to get the skip link working. And I kind of
You
like
can put the link without it. You can just put the skip link without the header.
That's true. That's true. Well played, Christina. Well played. All right.
Going back to what Todd said there, which I agree with.
Yeah. Now, in this case, because there is no, there's none of that original header that you see in the rest of the site. I'm actually going to use the ID that we have here, so I don't think we even need to rework it. So I can just go like that, pop that in, and then what's the text? Skip the content.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna come back here, and let's see. I believe I just want to make sure. Yeah, the site's still running. So Webpack should have rebuilt the JSX.
I do like the cure too, Todd. It just wasn't on that playlist. I have
okay.
a couple emo playlists. Sorry, we're getting off topic now.
No, that's okay. Emo all day. So a couple interesting things here. One, I haven't applied the CSS classes that are on the main header that have the skip to content.
Yeah,
so
it's gonna look different.
Yeah, which is totally fine, but I'm gonna get those styles. So just a sec here. I know this is prod, but it'll still have those. All right, so let's go find.
If you want to know about design and all of these crayons and stuff, someone's going to be coming on next week. No, next week? The week after.
Yeah,
Is it next week? Yeah. No, it's next week. Next week to talk about design. The week after is 5E.
Class equals that. Boom. Okay, skip content link. I haven't checked the CSS for this, but I imagine it's hidden by default, and then when it gains focus, it shows up. That's so if I refresh this, okay, so it's gone. I'm gonna click tab. Okay, so there's two things happening here. It's added the skip to content, which is good, but it gave focus to, we have a banner on the page. So I think we need to somehow get this showing. We need this above the banner. The banner is generated server side, and it gets injected if we happen to have any notifications. So I'm just gonna take note of that.
Make that an issue.
Yeah. So ensure skip link on editor is above Forem banners, and it's not a deal breaker, but if somebody tabs, they're gonna. Well, I guess I don't know. The question is it important that they tab to the banner content first? Because the banner is not always there. So that's a kind of question up there, but is above Forem banners. All right, cool. All right, so I'm going to scroll up here, and actually, let me do this. I'm going to put in some lorem ipsum. So let's go Kevin Bacon lorem ipsum, is it? I think. Yeah, Bacon ipsum, sorry.
Yeah, I think Todd, I think he's trying to get that skip link first, but because of the injection, we're going to have to do it after. Yeah. Got to open a new issue.
Yeah, we can definitely get it above. It's just it might not all. It's probably just in another template or something that will do it. But I'm just gonna put in some content here. Okay, so we got our Kevin Bacon. I don't think we'll kind of see it in action, because the thing is, if I scroll up, let's just tab, and then I click it. Okay, it is working. It's just there's not much action happening here. But that's good there. Okay, so let's just kind of recap quickly where we've gone. The main page was fine. We've done the notifications. We've done the dashboard. We've done the write a post. There's reading list. Okay, let's look at that. So there should be a main. Okay, good. perfect.
Yes,
And we've got the top header. So let's look for this. VS Code. Okay. Okay, I have a bunch of these. I want to exclude SAS files. Okay, reading list. It's this one. So once again, this is not the ID I'm putting makes no sense articles list. But it's what
rework that all together.
Exactly. So I'm going to come here. Okay, interesting. It's not there. Let's try that again. Okay, skip the content. Okay, boom. It's working there. That's awesome. All right. Okay, so that was the
important moment to remember. Naming is important and super hard.
Exactly.
You're naming classes and IDs.
Yeah. So. Do not name things potato unless you're on some kind of tuber website. Okay, let's tuber being the family that potatoes is a part of. Sorry, just dropping some knowledge there. Okay.
Emo, potatoes.
Yeah, I've
you need to drop your playlist, your favorite playlist. I dropped it. Not my favorite, but one I'm listening to.
I tend to listen to a lot of instrumental stuff when there's stuff where I need to concentrate. When it's kind of more menial work where I know exactly what I'm doing, I'll play music with lyrics. But one of my favorites is not the original Tron movie, but the second Tron movie. It's the soundtrack's by Daft Punk, and it's really good. All right, so
I gotta inject for 1 second. Todd, I'm glad you're here because I kept seeing your lobster roll tweets and I had never had one, and I got one last week and I thought of you. So I'm glad you're here.
They are pretty good, and it's funny you mentioned that because I saw him tweet out something about getting his delivery of mayonnaise today. So, sorry if it's all lobster roll talk now. Apologies, but they are good.
It was good. It was good, Todd. And then we got someone saying potato is literally their go-to test variable. So there we
go. That's like I used to have a coworker that would always write a function that just said "do it." That was the name of the function. It's like
I had a coworker who would just put poop for everything. That was fun.
Well, I guess in modern day times you can do poop emojis, and I don't know if people can see it on the screen, but you can edit because a lot of the VS Code stuff is it's HTML and CSS. So my title has poop, lightning, and unicorns in it. If you look at the top there, it's kind of small. I can't zoom it in, but all right. Let's get back to what we were actually talking about. Although poop and lobster is interesting topics. So I'm gonna add the articles list here. So it's once again the poorly named ID, but we'll get to that later. So this is for the settings area. So I'm gonna refresh here. We're gonna have
Tyler. Thanks for coming. I'm sorry if you walked into some crazy.
So, all right. So let's test this skip link. So I'm doing it again. I'm scrolling down in the page a lot so that I can see the anchor jump to it, just to show that it's actually working. Cool. It's working there too. Awesome. Okay, so that's dashboard, write a post, reading list, settings, key links. Ooh, I don't think I even knew. I didn't even know about this page.
I didn't either.
It's like we're deep in the matrix here now. What's going on? Okay, all right. Okay, so we got some divs. Okay.
Hey, Nick, when you're typing and it's showing everyone what you're typing, what's the plugin that you're using for that?
Okay, that is not a plugin. It is, if you're using Visual Studio Code, if you press Command Shift P if you're on a Mac, or if you're on a Windows or Linux based machine, you do Control Shift P. You get a set of commands you can do, and this one is called Screencast Mode. So you can see it here. It's showing up as the first one because that's the last one I used, and it's super handy because people can see what you're typing. And typically what I do when I'm streaming, I feel like most people do this, but I zoom in my editor, like even though it's like massive for me when I'm looking at it, and it's just easier to see. And then I'll hide the sidebar. And if I don't need the terminal down below, I'll just hide that too, just like this. I'm going to bring back the sidebar for a sec, but okay. Yeah, if you have any other questions, actually, I run a handle on Twitter called VS Code Tips. So
Nice.
if you're looking for
a video on VS Code Tips, but if you already have a whole Twitter,
it's we're doing all kinds of cross-referencing here today on the stream. It's like it's organic. All right. So on this what was this page called again? Key links. So yeah, so this is kind of all the stuff you see in the header on Dev as well. Footer. So this here has two divs. I'm not sure why there's a div and a div. I feel like that could have just been handled with padding. Maybe there's another reason why it's like that, but this one here, I think we'll just convert that to the main for now.
Do they have this key links because people get so annoyed with the infinite scroll on the homepage because they can't get to the footer?
Yeah.
that makes sense now. Now I get it.
Yeah. For those who aren't aware of this issue, so this is in production. You'll see the footer pop up real briefly and then it flickers away. It's a side effect of having infinite scroll in a website. So there's still a lot of discussion going on about that. It's an open issue. I don't think it's an issue open for Hacktoberfest because there's been a lot of back and forth with product design about this. But that's an issue that people have definitely raised. It's like, wait, I just want to say, oh, never mind, it's gone.
Nick, okay. Do you know if you all mainly use Flex or Grid or both?
We use Grid quite a bit, actually. One of the luxuries we have being a more modern community platform is, and I don't, what I mean is like the site it started off in 2016, but the browsers we support are typically all the up-level browsers. So Chrome, we don't have an official browsers list, but for example, we don't support IE 11. We don't even support Edge, the original Edge. We support the Chromium-based Edge. So that's given us the liberty to actually use Grid. And if I know we're talking about it. Yeah, but no, that's cool. And actually, there's some great free content. Well, I'm sure a lot of people know who Wes Boss is, and he has a lot of great courses. But he actually has an amazing CSS Grid course. I think it's cssgrid.io, the website, if somebody can check that. But it's a completely free course. It's like all about CSS Grid, and it was Mozilla sponsored it, so that's why he was able to release it as free. So he got paid, and he put out some great content for it.
I have a course, but it's not free, so I'm not going to plug it. I don't make money off of it, though.
Okay. Okay, so you can see here, I'm just doing a search in our SAS files. We use SAS on the Forem team, but you can see there's Grid everywhere. We have Flexbox as well, but for most things where it's like the general layout, we've gone with Grid, and that we've only been able to do that. I know you can fall back to Flexbox and just with the Cascade and CSS, but we kind of just ignored that as well, and we just kind of went in all Grid. So far, we haven't had any issues reported about like, hey, I can't see the site or it looks weird, and that's kind of because of the requirements that we have in terms of browsers. So we've been lucky with that. All right, rambling on here. Okay, so I put the main, where was I? I'm just gonna close this in the bacon ipsum. So if I refresh this, I believe I just added the main here. Did I? No, okay. Oh yeah, I was looking for it, sorry. And sorry for the flashbacks here, back and forth. I just erased what I was looking for. So let me just inspect again. Yes, I just used a mouse to get the context menu there, not like whoever that was that tweeted that you're a junior if you use a mouse. So don't listen to that advice.
All day. And I had students who would ask me if I would so they could see where I was pointing. So I just ignore that. Like, yes, this is actually helpful. If we're talking about accessibility, sometimes having a pointer point to something helps everyone.
No, for sure. Okay, so this is, yeah, and I mean, I use the keyboard a lot and I use the command line a lot, but I 100% use a mouse too. I'm not like Kung Fury hacking time going through on the Nintendo Power Glove.
I do have a fun keyboard now. I should just get better at it.
I can't tell if my face looks serious on the stream or not because I'm looking at the code. Hopefully I don't look too angry.
All right, I think I'm goofing off enough for us, so you're good. You gotta be serious.
Cool. All right, so there's basically I'm just looking for the CSS classes here that they have for this portion of the site, but I see it's in a lot of files here. So new device articles, invitations, listings. Okay, we got a lot of places to go to add some more main tags, I think, but I'm just trying to see where this one is, the key settings. I don't see pages terms. Maybe it's that. Let's see here. If you're wondering what all these bizarre class names are, we're not using Tailwind, but we're using utility classes. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow too on the other stream. Yeah. But I'm trying to see if this is where
we talk about design systems.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see here. I think this might be the right one. Oh, it isn't. Okay. All right. Which one is it? I'm going to look for something else within the content here. So let's look for actually privacy poly is vulnerabilities and bug bounty. That should not be in too many places in the code. And for people just getting started out, like I've had juniors or people starting off in their developer journey, like how do you debug stuff? A lot of the times it's like, it's like, okay, there's that piece of text. I search for it in the code base. Like even if the back end is something I've never worked in, it's going to show up somewhere, you know? So, and then you go from there. So now I've found the link here and this pretty much looks like where we're supposed to be, I think. So I'm going to just collapse this here and let's make this a main and a main. And I think this is winner, winner, chicken dinner. Let's see. That's booyah. Cool. All right. So I'm going to add also the ID in here. Once again, if people are just joining the stream, there's yeah. So we're just working on integrating the skip links throughout the application. So I'm going to refresh here. I'm going to scroll up. It's easy to test this in this scenario because our header, actually, the top nav and all that, it's sticky. It's a setting you can set. I have mine set to sticky. So I'm going to tab. We get the skip to content, and we should see the key settings page jump to the top of its content. Boom. Perfect. This is awesome. Okay. So that's good there. Okay. I'm trying to see what other pages we have. There is the sign out page, but I think that might be a modal. Okay. I guess we can look here too and see. We don't want you to log out, but you know, it could happen. Okay. Let's inspect here. Cool. H1. Do I want to sign out? There. Content inner. Okay, that's the global notice.
Getting rid of lots of divs throughout this. I feel very good about this. Getting rid of divs.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I feel good too about it. And once again, just want to stress, I'm not an accessibility expert, but there's a lot of things we can do to make. Like I already feel better about myself. I'm gonna sleep well tonight. You know, maybe I'll have a beer later. I don't know. We'll see. But no, it feels good to make these changes because there's not just the skip link that we're doing, Christina. It's also this also helps. We didn't touch on this, but having semantic HTML in the page is also beneficial for search engine optimization for SEO. So that's another. We won't talk about SEO today, but I'm not well versed enough in that to give recommendations for that, but I do know that certain thing. I mean, there's many criteria. Like I know Google has changed their algorithm to even check if your site is fast now, and that affects page ranking. But all that aside, like the semantic HTML actually can help with your search rankings as well. So that's something else to take into account. So all these
Yeah.
people saying it's too expensive to do these things, you know what? You're probably losing out on money. That's my guess. I don't have numbers on that, but I'm just going to say that blanket statement. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Todd mentioned page content enter, which I agree probably is the main there.
Yeah, exactly. Because here that's the global notice and that's injected server side. So yeah, so going to look for this one. So page content enter.
By the way, something I usually also tell people, like developers, as far as when they're learning and they're doing stuff and they're just doing a bunch of divs, us as developers, when you're working with other people, it's nice to go in something and see like a main, an aside, an article, a section, instead of seeing div, div, div. It's better for us too. Like, it's better for everyone. Like you could go into the code and be like, oh, it's main. Like that makes way more sense than like a div that you're maybe someone did a good class and told you it was the main section, but maybe they didn't. So yeah,
no, for sure. No, big time. Okay, so I'm just looking here in my search results, which I believe everybody can see. It should be zoomed enough. So I looked for that ID page content inner. It appears to be here. There's also some CSS attached to it. For those who might be CSS newbies or not familiar, the hash or the pound symbol here, that represents an ID. So that's still directly related to the ID here. So there might be some reworking of stuff here. It might make more sense to put a class here instead of using the ID. I think generally using the ID in your CSS, you don't really need to do that. There could be special scenarios maybe, but generally I've been using classes most of the time, or the cascade with the hierarchy and all that. But
it's one of those things where you typically, if you're using the ID a lot, then you're probably going to have to go back and rework it at some point because it's probably going to override something that you don't want to override because it's got a strong. It's just like you're talking about with the cascade and stuff. So it's stronger when you use an ID versus a class. So.
Yeah. So what I think I'm going to do is, given that there's literally only 3 instances of page-content-inner, I'm going to change this to a class. Could rework this to a better name after, because page content inner is somewhat generic. But I'm going to come here. I'm going to make this, for our skip link, the infamous articles list bad name for all the skip content links that we'll change later. And I'm just going to make this a class. And then that should still provide the same styling that we have here, because even though it's using this in the moderations panel, but which I believe is related to here, but I'm going to change this to a class anyways. And that should clean that up. That should clean there. And then I've changed it to a dot, so that's a CSS class now. So that should be fine there and there. And we've got our articles list. So let's come back here. I'm going to scroll up. Let me reload it.
By the way, anyone watching this, if you go on and you find one of the issues and it's something like that, Nick is doing, Nick works on this like every day, so he can go through and change a bunch of stuff. If you just want to change one thing, put it in a PR and try to figure out, is this right? That works too. You don't have to change out everything. But we would probably just leave you a comment and let you know there's other places like it could be changed and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's a good point about issue. This is not just for issues in Forem, but issues in general in a repository, whether it's on GitHub, GitLab, wherever you work out of. An issue doesn't have to be resolved with one massive pull request. There could be front end work, back end work. There could just be many parts of each of those types of work, so that fixing an issue could end up being 4 or 5 pull requests, and then the issue is resolved. So, and I can think of a good example of that is we had a lot of linting errors in terms of the JavaScript in the code base, and it took us a year to get all those errors gone. So we had this kind of global error, and then from there, people would just keep submitting pull requests, because I generated a whole list of all the pages where there's errors, and people would just say, I'm working on this page. They'd submit a pull request with just those pieces changed to fix the lint errors, and then we slowly chipped away at it. So, but yeah, so issues aren't one-to-one with a pull request necessarily. I'm gonna stop here for a second, Christina, because we're reaching 5:30, and I think that's pretty much our allotted time we've got on the stream with Joe. Yep. I also.
If you want to touch on just real quick, just one thing after whatever, I know you're about to say something, so you can totally say that too. Whatever you're going to be working on Thursday, because you're going to be working on an accessibility issue as well with the community member. So maybe just mention that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I was just gonna say potato, so nothing really important. That's just me being silly.
Potatoes are always important. Very important.
Wait. Okay, no, that's not it. Okay, I'm just gonna look for. It's assigned to me, and it's accessibility. Okay, whoops, and assigned to me. There we go. Okay, yeah. So what we're going to be working on Thursdays with a community member is I created this issue, I can't remember, about a month ago. And it's to consider No Mouse Fridays in the application. Marcy Sutton, who I mentioned at the start of the stream here, she created a package called No Mouse Days. So I'm just going to go to that. It's an NPM package you can install. And essentially, what it does is there's a CSS property called pointer events, and if you set pointer events to none, you basically can't click on anything, and that's essentially what this package does. There's other features of it where you can choose the schedule. Like I suggested starting with Fridays. It could be multiple days, but and the main reason is you install this, and then you're literally forced to only be able to use keyboard in the application. This could be frustrating for mouse users. That's not the intention. The intention is, if I am using the keyboard, we want to make sure that everything works properly. Like we were talking about tab order, skip to content, all those things. We want to basically be able to do everything in the application with no mouse. And that's the purpose of adding a package like this. And we'll touch on it more on Thursday, but you definitely don't want to deploy this to production, because all of a sudden it'll be Friday. Hey, I'm going to go write my awesome post on dev. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I have to buy a new mouse. We don't want to be we don't want to do that. So you can actually selectively inject this package with a Webpack build and say, I only want to do it for development. And that's what you'll see here if you look in the installation instructions. So that's what you can do.
And this is how you get buy-in for the whole team to be a part of accessibility, because you're like, see how frustrating that is?
Yeah. Frustrate your coworkers and then they'll fix it.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be working on. Oh, I just reached inception mode here. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So I think now is a good time to wrap up. So that's what we'll be tackling Thursday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a run through with Christina I almost said Christine. Sorry.
It's okay.
We're going to be going through kind of all things front end on the Forem code base tomorrow. That's on our stream, which it's on Twitch. The handle's The Practical Dev. We'll tweet that out later. But that's what we're going to be doing. And I'll just recap here, because I don't know when people showed up during the stream, but we've been working on the adding skip to content, skip links in the application. We're not finished. It's typically not the goal of when I do these streams when I pair with somebody either. It's just, let's see how far we can get, and then let's get a branch created, put a pull request draft up, and then go from there. So that's probably what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to create a branch with all the work I've been doing here, and I'm going to have a draft PR up. And Todd or anybody who's interested in the PR, I'll tweet out the draft PR a little bit later. And if any feedback's welcome, because I know there are a ton of other people who are way better at accessibility than me, so your input would be awesome. I think we're good to wrap up here. Did you have any parting thoughts, Christina, or anything else, or just thumbs up, no thumbs down, thumbs up, sideways, Macarena?
No.
Taka, taka, taka.
We're gonna be streaming all month. I think we're also coordinating with Raise to have a lot of those streams with Raise.dev. So
Y'all are next on the
Check us out.
show on the 13th of October, I do believe, which I'm very excited about. Thank y'all
Yeah, no,
for doing this here today. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, and you got a ton of streams going on still, right, Joe? Like
We do,
Raise.dev?
yeah. We're here 3 times a day, all throughout October. I will run people through the schedule right after this as well. Yeah, and you're with us. I think you're with us. I think you're with us every week, right? 13th of October is the next one, and then 27th of October. I think there's 1 week we're missing at the moment. That was the week where we had a bit of scheduling snafu.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
But just wanted to say thanks for having us. Really appreciate it, and congrats on launching the platform. It looks like it's going to be an amazing resource.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here and walking people through Forem. I'm as a developer community person, I'm personally very excited about Forem. So it's nice to hang out and listen to how it all works and see it get built. It's very cool.
Cool. Well,
alrighty.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks so much, guys. Catch you later. Alrighty. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and thank you again to Nick and Christina for joining us on the show. As they said, they will be streaming. Everyone who comes on the show has like 1 million streams going on. That is October. They'll be streaming over on the Practical Dev channel as well. You can find that at twitch.tv/thepracticaldev. They've got some great stuff going on over there. We'll be hosting them when our schedules allow. So you can also, if you happen to be flying by, catch them on here too. But they'll next be on this show doing more Forem stuff on the 13th of October. So that'll be going up on the schedule next week. For this week, the schedule is live at this one, twitch.tv Raise.dev's schedule. We've got some super exciting stuff coming up for you for the rest of the week. We have put a new thing in place today with some guests. We are arranging some little bit of fun and games based on some of the things we've done on the show so far. And we've just rolled that out to some of the guests, and we've got some great things coming back to us. So with Flaky on the 8th of October, we're actually going to be diving into an old Firefox OS app that Flaky has and comparing that to how we write vanilla JavaScript and HTML today. That's going to be super fun. Same day later on, we're going to be met by Shana Matthews from Microsoft. And we're also going to be diving into an old C code base that Shana has. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow, we've got Sanskar Jeffy and Penelope Thippen coming on the show. Sanskar's going to be in the morning at the 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time, 12:30 p.m. European time slot. Sanskar's going to show us for an open source project that he maintains and walk us through getting set up and contributing to that. And then Penelope Thippen, known for RSpec and Ruby format and all kinds of Ruby open source world things, is going to be on at the 4 p.m. European time slot, 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time slot to talk to us about, well, I'm definitely going to be picking our brain about Ruby format. I have so many questions about Ruby format, and to walk us through that project as well. And that afternoon, we're doing that evening in this time slot, we're swinging around to do a little bit of a talk about how to be like a good community member when it comes to like the communities around open source projects, how to integrate with those projects, how to be a valuable part of these communities with Andrew Seward. So that's our schedule for tomorrow. So again, one last time, thank you for joining us. If you are interested in joining Raise.dev, you can find us at Raise.dev. The name is the URL. It's very handy. We are a coaching service to help you get to where you want to be in your career. We want to help developers level up, whether it's finding their first developer job after a boot camp or something like that, or a career switch, through to getting a promotion or getting that next big gig. We help you get the experience that you need to do those things with hands-on coaching, walking you through our coaches will have a kickoff call with you and build some goals, and you'll work towards those goals with your coach. So we are free whilst we're in early access. You can find out more about that on Raise.dev. And if you enjoyed the show today, give us a follow. That way you'll get notifications about when we next go live. As I said, like we're doing 3 shows a day. That's mainly to hit different time zones. So to make sure that you get told about when that we're live on your time zone. Follow, but Twitch now do the YouTube thing where a follow isn't enough to get notifications. You also have to press the little bell. So hit the love heart to follow, then press the little bell to get notified. And if you have any questions that you'd love to put in front of our guests, you can join us in the chat, as many of you did. Thank you, Todd and Tyler, MVPs of the chat. But if you've got a question about Hacktoberfest contribution that you're struggling with, or just something you want help with, feel free to submit that to our help desk at Raise.dev Hacktoberfest. If you want more detail, details on how to make one of those submissions and what happens when you do, you can find a highlight in our videos here on Twitch that walks you through how to submit those questions. So that's all from me for today. I will see you bright and early by my standards, 12:30 p.m. European time, 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time for our slot with Sanskar. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.